the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, June 30th. We can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are any amendments to the agenda?
I don't have it.
I don't have it.
Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, I just want to point out we did amend the agenda since posting, but just for the public's benefit, under my report, there's an item number 5, which is approval of the confirmatory quit claim deed for 0 Park Street. That has been posted, but just it was amended. Other than that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda approved. There's no announcements. And this evening we have one recognition for 2020 graduating senior. This evening we're recognizing Megan DePel. She is a student at the Ayer Regional High School. Her activities and accomplishments include soccer from 2016 to 2019, and she plans on attending Merrimack College. Congratulations, Megan.
Sign out front.
Oh, I know. It is for that. Good job. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to read the. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information relating to remote participation, please contact Cindy Knox, the IT Director at cknox@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8252 prior to the meeting. And open it for public input. All right. So there doesn't seem to be any public input. The first item on the agenda is the request for water ban variance for One Patriot Way.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you have in your packet is a request from Mr. and Mrs. Balcones regarding an outdoor water variance. The board has their request in the packet, as well as some material from Superintendent Wetzel. I know that Superintendent Wetzel is on the meeting, and I'm not sure if David and or Cindy Balcones is also on the meeting.
Are they able to unmute themselves? Do we know?
That might be Cindy. Cindy, is that you?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Cindy Balcones. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think it was the Cindy either.
Is that the Cindy Balcones or is that Cindy Knox?
Cindy Balcones is the phone right here. Oh, okay. Okay.
So Cindy Balcones, you're on the phone, correct?
Yes, and my husband David is too.
Oh, okay. Sorry, a little confusion on that.
I do have a question for Mark at first. Mark, so we have the letter and everything in the packet. I was just wondering, has anyone else asked for a variance this year?
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. I had some technical difficulties, so I switched my we've issued a number of variances. We issue the variances for people that are planting new lawn or new landscaping. So when the Balconeses applied, I went and inspected their lawn from the street. I did not go onto their property, but from the street, it didn't appear that there was any new plantings or new lawn, and it appeared to be fairly healthy from what I could tell. You know, we have had other people that have requested watering lawns that they may have reseeded last year. And if I inspect them and it looks like a healthy lawn, then I don't grant the variance.
I also would like to ask another question. As far as businesses, I know I've driven by some businesses, but to be honest, I couldn't tell what they look like. So are they following the outdoor water ban? I know that we've had discussions like this about it before.
Everybody is supposed to follow the water ban. If we notice that they are watering, then we give them a warning. And then if they continue, then we will issue fines, and we have an increased fine level. If they are using it, then we will start the water termination for their irrigation process. I delivered a warning on Monday for someone reported I think it's the Alltown gas station, the gas station on Harvard Road, and they were unaware of the water ban. So I issued the warning, and they turned off their sprinklers.
My question is for Mr. and Mrs. Belliconis. Can you just give us kind of the time frame of when you had your lawn installed? It was October 2019, is that correct?
Yes, we had our lawn top dressed and reseeded at the end of October. There's virtually no growth through the winter, of course, and then we went into the spring. April was a very cool, snowy month. There was very little growth then. When Mark drove by our front lawn, now if you look at what we had done was a top dress and a reseed, so not the entire lawn was ripped up. It was scraped off and then hydro seeded again. So at the end of April and into early May, when we were still able to water, we had what's known as a one root, one blade plant growing. So it was virtually a new lawn. And the drive-by opinion appears to be supersede the actual science of growing a lawn.
Yeah, looking at the timing, I do think it, in my opinion, would qualify more as a newer lawn than a 1 year old. And I know April was ridiculously cold.
Right. We spent, as you have the packet, we spent a good amount of money to have this reestablished, and right now I'm anguishing. And we also had the reasonable expectation that the well would come back online. Now, all the things are out of our control. We understand. We're very reasonable people.
I understand. We have to, as the board, we have to manage, I guess, fairness to both the DPW, but also to other residents.
Understood.
Given the timing, I'm in favor of the variance because I think it's a newer lawn, even though it was put down late last year.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, can I just chime in here? Since my judgment, and I think I gave you an idea of why we have the outdoor water use ban, and we have.
I understand.
We have.
Fully understand.
Excuse me. Can I finish what I'm talking? We're in a drought situation right now, so technically I shouldn't even be issuing variances. We put the water ban on before the state declared a drought situation. As I presented to the selectmen a chart that shows we have about 65% of our well capacity in operation right now. And one of our wells, one of the pumps failed 2 weeks ago, so we were without our biggest well for over a week in the driest month of the year. We're way behind on water supply, and I've gotten a lot of people that have said that we've reseeded their lawn or are planning to do more landscaping, and I don't think it's fair to the residents that we're going to put the public safety in danger so that people can water their lawns.
And,
Mark, with all due respect, Mark, all these, when we applied for the variance, there was no drought condition. We understand things change, but the facts are what they are at that time. And we can make all these arguments going forward about public safety and what have you, but that doesn't change that we believe we qualified for the conditions and the stipulations for the variance with a new lawn, and yet we were denied. And it's as simple as that. Now, if going forward the town outlaws or bans all watering for that, then that is what it is. But at this point in time, that's not the condition.
Mark, question to you, Mark. When the variance is given, what are the restrictions on watering for those individuals or those residents that have a variance?
Well, for new lawns, I can't cite them off the top of my head, but they can water every day for a certain period of time, and then they have to go to odd even for a certain period of time, and then I think it's every 3 days for a certain period of time. So there are restrictions, and in some cases, I put a condition on, and I say that you can't do it every, for instance, if they're just doing the landscaping instead of a brand new lawn, then it might be every other day. I might say you have to do the odd even every other day, and we also don't allow any outdoor watering between 9 and 5.
Mr. and Mrs. Balakonis, in reading your letter to the board, you indicate that you're watering your lawn by hand, and that it's time consuming. So your lawn is still able to thrive and be healthy, correct? It's just taking you more physical.
Well, I'm doing it every other day
In the front.
for the odd even because we can use a hose, and that is, but I cannot really water it that well using my hose. It's minimal. And that's what I am stating on that. And it is very time consuming, exactly hours.
So I'd like to ask a
Yeah.
question. Mr. and Mrs. Balakonis. So my question is, if the variance is granted, would you still do it every other day? Would you be able to do it during a certain time period? And, not for like hours, but, like a full hour of it or something like that?
We'll comply with any mandated schedule, even odd, 30 minutes a zone, whatever. I'm not trying to have a golf course here. I just don't want to spend another $4,000 this fall.
So one other question though. So you had mentioned when you were denied the variance, there wasn't the information about us being in a drought situation. Just have to ask, provided that we do know that now, does that change your request for the variance?
No, we can modify the watering schedule for whatever will be amenable to Mark and the town, but I don't want to lose the lawn, and we're borderline right now. Both my wife and I work full time, and so the watering by hand is arduous at the very least. And so I'm more than willing to get through. The other thing that's been happened because of this is I can't fertilize or do anything that needs to be done to establish this lawn. So we have a weakened condition, we have a stressed plant, and the outlook is grim at best if we don't put water on it.
More questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Delaconis, do you have is it an irrigation system or is it just like a sprinkler on the?
No, we have an irrigation system that we installed when we bought this new property like 8 years ago. And so from other properties we've owned, it's always something that it's something that you really kind of need. But we will certainly abide by whatever, and it's also interesting that, pun intended, we're on sandy pond, so the soil here isn't the best on the planet.
Well, my concern, this is Mark again, my concern is there are a lot of people that are in the same situation, invested a lot in their lawns, and they call me all the time and I say, how come I can't water? I've got, thousands of dollars in my lawn. And number one, the lawns don't die, they go dormant. And we have an awful lot of people that have in-ground sprinkler systems that will say, well, how come you let them, not me? So I'm trying to be consistent on who I give the prices to, and it's primarily there's new houses or people that have dug up their lawn for repairs or things, and they're not redoing their whole lawn. So I'm trying to be consistent, but I think I included, I don't know if the slides have the handout that I included a picture of the new DPW building, and you can see we're not watering our lawn. It's looks like straw.
Mark, I understand. The only reason we applied for this variance and then we took it to this level to the selectmen is because we firmly believe we meet the criteria of establishing a new lawn. I'm not just out here to make my lawn look better than my neighbors. I feel everyone's pain and anguish of what's going on over situations which we have no control over. But we did lose a lawn last year complying with the restrictions that were put in place. I could have easily tried to cheat and do whatever had to be done if I was that type of individual, but we're not. And so if people are complaining, let them, but then bring it up to the governing board of the selectmen and be heard out. That's how we view things to be done, and that's what we're doing.
Mark, can I ask you, I know you said that you had viewed the lawn, and do you use a timetable usually to determine what's a newer lawn and what's not when you're issuing variances?
Well, I mean, it's my judgment of whether the lawn looks healthy or not. Typically, if someone's overseeding a lawn in the middle of May, the lawn looks pretty good. So I'm not a lawn expert. I'd mow my own. I planted my own grass back here, and luckily it's rained every day this week. It's their lawn didn't look any different than most of their neighbors' lawns when I viewed it.
So I agree with what Mark's saying in the respect that he's doing his best to be fair. And I also agree with the fact that a lot of people are upset about it. It has gone on for a while. Actually, every year there's an even off. There's a permanent sign on Park Street.
Right.
But we have had unusual circumstances. I think that the request is reasonable. I do think that the Balaconis are being very reasonable as far as, they want to work with us. I appreciate the fact that the picture of the DPW yard lawn was given to us. Irony about the DPW lawn is that the taxpayer would be paying to water that lawn. So I would prefer a taxpayer being able to pay for their own lawn than, because the Ayer library, as I was driving here, it looks terrible. I'm looking across the street to the post office. But I think that they're being very reasonable, and they certainly do have the right to bring it to us. And I appreciate they have, and I appreciate the fact that they've been very pleasant in their request. And I think that every now and then we have to say yes, because it's not just the lawn, it's not just the property, the money spent on it, but let's be honest, 2020 is not going very well. So if we could boost someone's morale, that would be nice.
Yeah, yes. I agree. I think, the Belacones seem that they're willing to work with us. So I think if we were to give the variance or put a restriction on following the odd even, maybe where they have an irrigation system, maybe a maximum of, and I'm not a lawn person, I have to do 20 minutes or 30 minutes per sprinkler. I don't know which would be the best, but I would ask the Belacones if we do grant this, that they please be as conservative as possible in their usage. So I would be in favor of providing the variance on quality on even.
I agree.
Agreed.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance to Mr. and Mrs. Belacones as discussed tonight.
And a second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion's passed. And the water variance has been granted.
Thank you very much. And Mark has our email. We've communicated in the past, and I will work with Mark and whatever he believes, and we'll work out a solution, and we'll all be happy.
Great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Have a
it.
great night.
You too.
Next item on the agenda is we're going to hear from Lori Sable from the Air Recycling Committee regarding the plastic bag ban bylaw discussion. Lori? She's muted.
Okay, I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't see me though because the camera on my computer is broken. No big deal.
I think we all have a mental image of you. So.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. One really quick thing before I get started. My first name ends with an E, which was not noted on the agenda. I've had my name misspelled all my life, so I'm okay with it. I just wanted to point it out for the official record.
I can empathize, Lori. I get two N's. People forget it.
Oh, right. Yeah. You have definitely a tricky one. I know I have 10 minutes of your time, and I appreciate that amount of time. You have a handout with a short outline of what I wanted to talk about and a draft of the bylaw that I wrote prior to the world falling apart in early March. There is one tiny but important change that I made to the bylaw draft earlier today, and you'll note that your version in the overview section, line 2, your version uses the word elimination, and that is a single word that is really important, and the word should actually be reduction. This is still a draft. I know that Robert told me it has to go through the town council and obviously has to be discussed for all of its content, but I just wanted to let you know that I did make that change in it. So I'm here to sort of get your opinions actually about how I should proceed with this. Pre-COVID, I was ready to take this draft, once it was vetted by all the appropriate parties, to the October town meeting after having done all kinds of promotion and publicity about this, and have the voters of the town discuss and decide on it. I think everybody knows what's going on with single-use plastic bags. They are recyclable, but they are not recyclable in your curbside or your drop-off recycling. They can wreak literal havoc with the machinery at the recycling plants, and the machines can actually grind to a halt because the plastic bags get tangled in the machines. So there's an economic issue about using plastic bags. It's a negative one. We all know that single-use plastic bags are a huge source of litter. And when they are thrown away into the trash, they can literally take thousands of years to break down. When you do recycle them appropriately at grocery stores and big box stores, they're shipped to the Trex company and used in their decking products. So that was the situation. But when the coronavirus overtook everything, the governor of Massachusetts and many other state governors, not all of them, but many, banned reusable bags. And we were back to square one with the requirement in the grocery store to use the single-use plastic bags. Some stores are starting to open up that a little bit. Target, I know, has started allowing customers to bring in their reusable bags as of June 24th. So over 100 towns, closer to 135 towns in Massachusetts have brought a single-use plastic bag reduction or elimination bylaw to fruition in their town. So it's not like we would be doing anything brand new. But what I want to hear from you is, do you think that this is the right time and I should move forward with the publicity campaign and with having the bylaw vetted and ready to go? Or do you think I should wait?
I hesitate to say wait because, it's 2020. So, I mean, I think that it's not a bad idea to go forward with this, to at least get the word out there. And if for some reason it couldn't go to town meeting in October, she's still getting it out there, and so that it would be ready for the next time. I agree. I had just bought myself brand new produce bags, reusable produce bags, and then the world ended.
Yeah.
And I do think that these plastic bags multiply when you put them in a closet. Just literally driving me crazy. So personally, I think that it does not hurt to get the process started, to have the goal of having it ready for the fall town meeting. Worst case scenario, it would be ready for the spring town meeting.
But, I think that this is something that's going to have a lot of questions. So I think communication earlier would be better, given the burning down of the world, as we've referenced many times this evening. The fall town meeting may not be the best time to do that, but it doesn't hurt to get the information out. Lori, have you, I know we talked about this a while back, have you reached out to any of the local businesses to see, kind of get their feedback on that?
I was getting started doing that, and I didn't get very far. I will tell you that I talked to a couple of businesses that were very supportive of the idea. Some of the restaurants in town do serve carry-out in paper bags. So I think there will be a mixed review and opinion on the part of the businesses in town, but that's a big unknown at this point. I have a list of various stakeholders that need to be brought into the loop before too much more time does occur. If you do convince me that I should at least try for the October town meeting. And by the way, there are exemptions that are written into most of these various town bylaws.
So Lori, I do have a question on the content of the bylaw that's proposed here. And it says that it just identifies as retail establishment, and what qualifies and does not qualify as a retail establishment.
I have to say, okay, let me look at the bylaw. I have it right here. Is retail establishment not defined there? Oh, okay. Any business that sells goods directly to the consumer, whether for or not for profit.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I totally missed that part.
That's okay.
So restaurants are included.
Yes, yeah. Restaurants, retail, convenience stores. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I am in agreement with my colleagues here that I think having it ready for October would be great, having all the language vetted, and then if it doesn't go into October, the only thing that you'd have to change is the date.
Yeah. I do know that the bylaws that I've read from other towns, and maybe this is standard operating procedure with bylaws in general, that, for example, if this one was approved, if we even are able to bring it to the town meeting in October, and if it is approved, we can set the implementation date for any time we want. So it could be 6 months after that, a year after that. I think we have some flexibility there.
I agree.
And I think also the publicity campaign may get a lot of places to come on board before it even passes.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for that to be the case. That would make me very happy. I want to ask really quickly if I am able to bring this to town meeting, or maybe I should add, and I don't want to put you three on the spot, but is anybody willing to sort of help me shepherd this thing as far as the publicity, as far as being available to do a town-wide Zoom meeting in support of it? Are any of you interested in being available?
I would be.
Sure.
I would be.
Yeah.
Was that all three of you?
Yes.
You know, it's rare that we agree, but you know, it's on a good day.
Okay, so I will, I guess I'll talk to Carly maybe about, only since I don't see Robert there, though I thought Scott was Robert for a minute. From this far away. So I'll talk to Carly about next steps. Does that make sense to you, Carly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Well, I actually have 1 minute and 7 seconds left. Do you have any questions about anything that's going on with recycling in town?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Next up is the appointment of Deputy Fire Chief. I believe Chief Karazi are on the call.
We're on.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen, and good evening, Chief Pedrazi and Captain Johnston. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Pedrazi to formally introduce Captain Johnston. It's the chief, as a strong fire chief, will be appointing Captain Johnston as the deputy fire chief effective July 1st. And I enthusiastically support that appointment and that recommendation to the board. You have in the packet the extensive credentials of Captain Johnston, who, in addition to myriad of great achievements, has served the town of Ayer and the Ayer Fire Department for 38 years of distinction, and will be, I think, the excellent deputy chief and the individual that the chief is looking for as he moves forward with the succession plan. So the purpose of tonight was we wanted to formally present him to the board for any questions or comments the board has. But through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to the Fire Chief Pedrazi.
Yes, good evening.
Stephen?
First, I'd like to thank everyone for their support during this process, because it was a very needed position in this department as we move forward. Captain Johnston and I, probably a lot of people don't know this, we were hired at the same selectmen's meeting back in 1985 together. So Tim's been with me right along here at the station for the 35 years we've been working together full time. He thinks like I do on things, and he's going to be a great asset to help manage the department. There's just so many different things going on, especially in the COVID world, that the help is really needed in the top end of the department. Like Robert mentioned, I'm the appointing authority, so Tim will be appointed tomorrow morning, the first full-time deputy chief in the department.
Very good.
Are there any questions?
I have no questions. I just want to add that I did try to read all of his qualifications.
So did I.
But I think reading War and Peace would have been shorter. No, I think that this is an excellent choice. Congratulations. And I think that the town is going to be well off with this.
Yes, thank you very much.
Scott?
No, just I'll kind of reiterate what Janice said. Congratulations, Captain Johnson. You got some big shoes to fill, but we know you're up to the task, that's for sure. And I look forward to working with you in that capacity going forward.
Right.
Yes, congratulations, Captain Johnson,
Thank you.
or soon to be Deputy Chief Johnson.
Deputy Chief.
All right.
I think he'll wear the title well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right, Mr. Chairman, if I might add,
Yes, absolutely.
I first of all, the board, and certainly like the chief reiterated the town residents for giving, continued support of the fire department. Also for the chief, instilling his confidence in me and becoming the next fire chief. And as of tomorrow, I look forward to, working with not only department members, that, other departments, town employees, and town residents in my new capacity. But thank you.
All right. The next item is the Superintendent Whistles Public Works Forum. Mark?
No.
There we go.
Good evening. I think the first items is I think the town engineer Dan Van Schalkwyk has a couple items. I don't have my agenda right here, but we have let's see, we have a change order for the High Street Water Main. Dan, you want to take over?
Yeah, yep. How's everyone doing?
All right.
Good. All right. Yeah, so the first three items are mine. The first item is a change order, a request for approval for the FY 2020 water and drain improvements. That was a project that's been completed. That was on High Street where we replaced the water main and the storm drainage system. The change order is due to, we encountered a lot of ledge up there, excessive ledge. So a good chunk of the change order is for removal of the ledge. And we also added a hydrant replacement and about another 100 or so linear feet of water main up on Winthrop Ave to replace an old water main there because we were right at that location already. And then we did a little bit excess paving because the road is very steep, and having it, we didn't want it to erode out over the next year. So the change order is for $57,420, and it's for a signature by the chair.
I don't know. I'll make a motion to approve the change order number 1 for the FY 2020 water and drain improvements in the amount of $57,420 for signature by the chair.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Dan, the next one.
Okay, yeah, item 2 is a change order for the Recreation Department garage, change order 1. So this project is almost complete. They're getting their occupancy this week. We had a little hiccup this morning, but we just need to get a couple items in place and they should have occupancy within a day or so. But it was just for some change orders we encountered over the job. There wasn't any large ones, so it was just some small items that the contractor added on, and it came to a total of $15,403. So that's also a request for approval for signature by the chair.
Any questions on that? No questions. None. Here.
I'll make a motion that the select approve. I lost my roll there. Approve the change order 1 for the Recreation Department garage project in the amount of $15,403, signature by the chair.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion approved for the change order. And the third item, Dan.
Okay, do you want to do the MS4 update now, Carly? I have a short presentation.
Absolutely.
Is it?
It just died.
My mouse, I think it just died, but
Oh, okay.
that other one. Oh, wait.
It's like it's going
There it is. It's up there. Yeah. Coming now.
It's nothing worse than trying to find where your mouse went.
Agreed. Okay. There we go.
Here we go.
There you go.
All right, thanks. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the year 2 MS4 stormwater permit actions we've been completing. So year 2 was from July 1st of 2019 until today, June 30th of 2020. So you can go to the next slide. Just real quick, an MS4 permit is a municipal separate storm sewer system, is what MS4 stands for. And Ayer has a NIPD stormwater discharge permit, and we've had it since 2003. Recently, there was a revised permit, a new permit, and that went into effect July 1st of 2018. So we're currently at the end of year 2. The MS4 permit requires us to address 6 minimum control measures you can see on the screen there. And I'm going to kind of get into each of those on the next slides. So we can go to the next slide. So just in general in year 2, some things we completed is we submitted an annual report for the year 1 term. And we'll be working on the year 2 annual report in the coming months. And we updated our stormwater management program. That's basically our Bible to what we're doing to, meet the MS4 permit. And in there is all the tools we have, our IDDE plan, our mapping. So in that SWIMP, we've updated everything with actions we've done in year 2, which includes revising the stormwater map. And then some other elements in the next slides. So the first minimum control measure is public education. And the Conservation Administrator helped us with this this year. And we actually went above and beyond what we had to do for messaging. We had a monthly message go out, typically by social media, but we also had some brochures as well for certain items. And it was just for items that could impact stormwater and kind of best practices that to educate the residents and the people in town of what we can do, such as pet waste and car care and lawn fertilizer usage. So Thanks to the Conservation Administrator for that help. We can go to the next slide. Minimum control measure 2 is public involvement. And so we're required to have a public review and comment period for our SWIMP, the Stormwater Management Program. And that's actually up on the town website, the revised SWIMP, which was revised a few weeks ago. So it's up there for the public to put down, to give us comments. We maintained our stormwater hotline, that's the DPW phone number. And we continued to promote Devon's household hazardous waste collection and our mercury waste collection. And we're making our annual public update today. Minimum control measure 3 is our illicit discharge detection and elimination. So what we have to do here is try to find any discharge going to our stormwater system that is not contained solely of stormwater. For example, you could have a sump pump in a house which is discharging like detergents or something like that. You could have a cross connection of a sewer pipe that tied into a drainage pipe, things like that. So we have an IDE plan, and in that plan there's what's called an SSO inventory, a sanitary sewer overflow. An SSO is when our sewer system, our wastewater system, has a backup and it overflows either into a waterway, into a drainage system. It could even back up into a house, but I mean, and then potentially somehow affect the stormwater system. But we have to update that inventory. We updated our stormwater map with various requirements for the phase 1 IDDE. And there's an annual training required, and we attended that. And that was provided by Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, actually provided over Zoom about a month and a half ago. And we'll be getting going next year with our dry weather screening. We're going to start in July. We're going to have a consultant on board to do the field work for that, SDE engineering. Next, yep. Minimum control measure 4, construction site stormwater runoff control. So one item we have to tackle is review and update town bylaws, which were created under the previous NIPDES permit, our NIPDES phase 2 town bylaw and our IDDE bylaw. They were originally due at the end of year 2, but there's been a settlement between various organizations, the town of Franklin, town of Lowell, Charles River Watershed, which it ended up pushing out our bylaw update to the end of year 3. And currently Arcadis Engineering is reviewing that, and they're reviewing it with a contract that's with Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, which we joined in February. And our stormwater regulations, they're currently under review by the planning board. So those are pursuant to our NIPDES phase 2 bylaw. And I anticipate those to be adopted at the July 14th planning board meeting. And they contain some elements required in the MS4, which I've listed below: site inspection enforcement and erosion and sediment control and as-built plans. We can go to the next slide. Minimum control measure 5 is post-construction stormwater management. There wasn't a lot this year. We have to ensure stormwater controls meet Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, which we do that already with anything that comes to us for review. But it's also going to be included in our bylaw update at the end of year 3. So we can go to the next slide. MCM 6, that's good housekeeping. So this is where a lot of active work happens. So we do our annual catch basin cleaning and inspection of all catch basins in May. And we do street sweeping twice a year throughout the whole town. And also we do the main street every week, and some of the other mains, I think about 7 times a year. Obviously we don't do it in the winter, and then we also inspect and maintain our stormwater treatment structures, such as the rain garden you can see pictured there. That's at Peroni Park. And last year we actually had the Youth Works group helping us maintain those rain gardens. And then also we completed the following plans. We completed O&M plans for a few, for parks and open space, our building and facilities, vehicles and equipment and our MS4 infrastructure. So that was a lot of work, which the civil engineering intern helped with. And also Central Mass Stormwater Coalition came through by providing templates for us, which you can see. Here's a list of the SOPs we put together on the image to the right for our operations, but they also had templates for all those O&M plans and for stormwater pollution prevention plan SWIPs for our facilities. So you can go to the next slide. Looking ahead to year 3, just some of the stuff we'll be working on will be some of the baseline things we have to do, such as public education messages, updating our SWIMP, IDDE, our dry weather sampling I mentioned will be started, and our stormwater bylaw and regulation will be updated. Our annual report, and we do infrastructure and outfall improvements. This year we did High Street, and we did some culvert inspections and improvements. And then we'll probably start beginning work on items due at the end of year 4, because year 3 doesn't have a lot due. And then we also submitted for a Section 319 grant, it's separate from the MS4, but it will actually help the stormwater system. So that may be implemented. And basically what that is a grant to put several rain gardens around the Flanagan Pond area to try to reduce the nutrient loading to the pond. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that grant and we can implement those projects. And I think I have 1 or 2 more slides. So implementing the MS4, currently we're doing most of the work in-house. Me, the civil engineering intern, our highway department, our conservation agent, as I mentioned, and other departments as necessary. We will have a consultant on board for the IDDE implementation, and the Central Mass Stormwater Coalition. Since joining them, they've been a big help for trainings, for overlapping efforts such as the bylaw review and updates, and hiring a consultant for that. And they do keep us up to date on what's going on with stormwater and regulations. And yeah, that's all I had. I wanted to keep it kind of quick. Any questions?
No problem. No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks. Yeah, the next item is Mark's.
Sure.
Spec Pond. Yep.
I think I'm still here. I don't know if my video works, but I keep moving my mouse and I'm on a different computer. There we go.
There we go.
So the item I have is an agreement for the construction of the replacement well for Spectacle Pond, well number 1. And this project was required as part of the PFAS treatment project. If you've ever been out to our Spectacle Pond well field, we're pretty limited on land area of where we can construct the actual facility. And so the original concept was to put the existing well within the building itself. Fortunately or unfortunately, we had to clean and redevelop that existing well this past fall and discovered that the well casing was starting to corrode and had some holes in it. So we were able to do a short-term repair, but it didn't make sense to build a building over a well that was going to fail in the near future. So what we're doing is putting in a replacement well, which is outside of the building. It's on the north side of the existing well, and it's a regulated process that we have to go through with the DEP. That can only be a certain number of feet from the existing well, and we have to do pump tests and everything. So we put some test wells in. It's a very good site. It should yield at least as much as the existing well. And so we put a bid package together. We received 2 bids, and the low bidder was Dancris Builders Corp. For the amount of $262,000, and that includes constructing the new well, putting in a pump, a well head, and a meter vault and some piping, and then we'll connect that into the system under the PFAS
treatment plant project. But but we have to do some permitting ahead of time, so that's why we wanted to get this out to bid and get construction started on it as soon as we could. I've worked with Dancrest Builders since probably the mid '80s, so I know their work very well. They're very dependable. They actually did a similar project for us at Spec Pond Well number 2. You may remember that. So I recommend that the Board of Selectmen execute an agreement with Dancrest Builders Corp. from Plainville, Mass. In the amount of $262,000 for replacement well number 1 at Spectacle Pond.
Any questions?
How long will it take to finish?
The well itself,
The ground tomorrow, how long would it take?
pardon me, I didn't hear that.
Put the shovel in the ground tomorrow, how long would it take?
Probably, it's probably about 3 months.
3 months, okay.
And just an update on the Spectacle Pond project, we just completed the review of the 90% design for the PFAS treatment plant. So they're making final edits to that. Then we have to submit it to the state. The state's already reviewed the 90%, so we should get a fairly quick turnaround from the state. And then since we're getting state funding, it has to go also to the state funding agency. We've been communicating with them, but we need to put our final application together. So we're anticipating being ready to bid that probably in late July. And that'll be about a year construction.
I just want to add, if he has any problems, with the state, let us know and we'll do what we can to help.
Sure.
Yeah, the state's been really, really good to work with. As I said, we submitted the 90% design plans, and we had comments back from them in about a week. They're number one, they're all working from home, so they're getting a lot of stuff done. But we've kept them involved in this project since day one, so they understand what we're doing, what we're designing, and why we're doing things. And they actually have added some really good comments on things that we hadn't anticipated.
I have no question.
All right.
I have no other questions.
I don't have any questions. Motion.
I'll make a motion for the select board to award the contract for Spectacle Pond Well number 1 replacement to Dancrest Builders in the amount of $262,000.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mark and Dan.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is town manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Just a couple of items under the administrative update, and you have in your packet all of the town warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on June 10th. In terms of the administrative update, just briefly, we're in the process of obviously closing out FY 2020 as tomorrow kicks off FY 21, if you will, July 1st. And we're really preparing for FY 21. As the board knows, a new budget starts, and also a new budget that has yet to be fully funded, and we have yet to fully see what happens in terms of revenues. As I've told the board, we have been monitoring revenues and spending since the beginning of COVID-19. Now we really get into it with the first benchmark being the first property tax due on August 1st. Really seeing will be the first benchmark. Additionally, we continue to be told informally but conservatively the Commonwealth is looking at a $7 to $10 billion shortfall in revenues, and there is no state budget set at this time. So that has put most of the school districts will go into a 1/12 budget starting tomorrow because Chapter 70 hasn't been resolved. And many cities and towns in Massachusetts that are highly reliant on state aid will also be going into 1/12 budget Fortunately, that won't be the case for the town of Ayer. So we'll be continuing to monitor that. Additionally, Dr. Malone, as well as the whole Commonwealth, last Thursday, the reopening guidance was formally issued by the Commissioner of Education and the Governor, and she has put together a whole reopening committee and task force, and we'll be looking closely at that to see what are the costs and the cost implications to the reopening plan for the school district, because one of the pieces that remains unclear is where's the funding source for all of the PPE, transportation, and so forth. So that's another piece of the equation, if you will. The BI board will be setting up a meeting for July to discuss some of these in detail, and we'll report obviously back to the select board on July 14th and moving forward. Additionally, we're waiting to hear the status on we submitted a grant, as the board is aware, for a CDBG COVID-19 grant of just over $300,000 was submitted. This, if we're successful, the financial sources would be used for small business relief as well as food security. We hope to hear this month on the status of that grant, meaning July. We received our first coronavirus CARES reimbursement in the amount of $28,000. As I mentioned to the board, we have a threshold of up to $711,000 through December 30th of COVID-19 related expenses. So we did get our first reimbursement there as well. Additionally, we're going to be starting the Americans with Disability Act review and update of the town's whole ADA plan. We received a $30,000 grant to do that. There was a delay due to COVID-19. The state did grant us an extension, which is most appreciated, and we'll be starting that, which is a comprehensive review of the town's ADA plan, as well as any updates that we need to make to that plan. So that'll be all the town facilities, streetscapes, parks, and so forth. And we'll keep you updated as that process commences there. Also, I want to point out, as the board is aware, with the passage of the bylaw changing the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board, we are in the process of renaming and rebranding everything, so just bear with us as we get into the new nomenclature moving forward, but we'll be making all of those changes. As I see, some spots we get them, some spots we miss them, but we'll get that all ironed out there. That ties into sort of the next item, which is the coronavirus COVID-19 town preparedness update. I'm pleased to report that things remain status quo, which in this case is a good thing. Again, all town employees, there have not been any COVID infections. We continue to focus on acquiring PPE for town personnel. I can't stress enough that the need for N95 masks is always there. We will be working with the regional school district. We have yet to have those discussions as to the needs up there for PPE and so forth are quite considerable. And we continue to move forward in this COVID-19 pandemic. I think the biggest concern on the administration, a couple of things. One is the impacts, economic impacts to individuals, families, and small businesses in Ayer. We're starting to see, stresses there. And also the financial integrity of the town moving forward. Again, if you look at the books and paper right now, on June 30th, it still looks strong. But as I mentioned earlier, we know the state shortfall, the unemployment rolls, and so forth. And we're going to try to stay positive, but also pragmatic, as we move forward. So that's where we are on sort of the COVID situation. The third item I have, and I prepared for the board, it is in the packet, a detailed memo, is a review of the annual town meeting. And in the interest of time, I don't anticipate this to be the first or the last discussion on this, but wanted to start the discussion with the board. First, if I could, Mr. Chair, I just want to again, thank everybody for their patience, their understanding, and their support on June 15th. It was an unprecedented town meeting during unprecedented times, new territory for everybody. I'm pleased to report that the moderator is feeling much better. I want to thank Mr. Sam Goodwin, who was the deputy moderator that night, for stepping up and for doing what under normal circumstances is often a thankless job, doing a very good job to move the meeting. We want to thank also the public's patience and support. There were some unforeseen challenges that happened during the meeting, which I'll talk briefly about, as well as some proposed solutions moving forward. But we appreciate everybody's patience there. And at the end, despite some of the hiccups, and I also want to mention, I want to specifically thank the town personnel and staff that worked very hard in planning and preparing for and adjusting as some of these things happened in real time at the meeting. I appreciate everything that they did. Despite the hiccups, we did successfully have the town meeting, and the articles did pass, and the budget did pass, which is a true testament to the town. So what are some of the lessons learned, and what are some of the things we can do to improve? In no particular order, one of the things that, and you learn by doing some of these things, one is that under the guidance, we will be able to allow spouses and families to sit together. And I should caveat, all of this is assuming sort of the current COVID-19 situation. Of course, things, as we know, change. But by allowing, our plan was to follow strictly the seating. By adopting, allowing spouses and families and so forth to sit together, still doing the social distancing, we can increase the capacity and still meet the guidelines. So I think that's a positive improvement. Additionally, we discussed that we should take reservations for planning purposes, and I want to stress, you can't make a reservation mandatory, and you can't turn anyone away if they don't have a reservation. But as we look to October and talking to some of the folks, for planning purposes, taking reservations, we're going to be, there's 2 of us, there's 4 of us, we need aisle access. Doing some reservation planning also will help us determine potential capacity, because we ended up with 115 on the 15th. One of the most unfortunate things that didn't become evident until the town meeting was underway was the unforeseen 40-second delay in the overflow room. It was most unfortunate and problematic. The solution to that, there's no question, we have to have a reliable, dedicated overflow room, if that's the approach we go with, that has, and this was the intent, a real-time audio visual link. That was most unfortunate that there was the 40-second delay. It obviously created some issues. Again, I thank the staff for moving folks safely and distantly into the auditorium, but that needs to be rectified, tested, and proven, even with the contingency moving forward. The other thing, we discussed this with the board, there's a challenge with the issues of microphones for attendees. And it became evident that having folks just stand from the seat, especially with face coverings and so forth, some people can't project, and that's not a criticism. And there were concerns about having aisle mics and so forth, and we talked about this some, but there's no question that we either need to implement a boom microphone or what is called a remote directional microphone, like you see at sporting events and so forth. So if Selectman Livingston is speaking from her seat, if she was in the audience, the device projects it. So we can resolve and need to resolve the attendees' amplification and microphone. And then lastly, and I'm sure there are other ideas which we want to hear and want to continue this conversation, also ideas and input from the public and the board. 115 voters did attend. And though in Ayer the quorum is 50, the recommendation is for future town meetings, assuming that the current legislation under the emergency order remains, the Board of Selectmen can reduce the quorum. And if the board reduces the quorum, that doesn't mean more can come. They can. It does, and it shouldn't also mean that we're reducing the quorum that we don't want people to come. But I think it's something to consider as we noticed as the meeting went on, folks began to leave. And we got very close to losing a quorum. Now, under state law, as you know, no one challenged it, so the meeting continues. And I am pleased to report, according to the town clerk's records, at the end of town meeting, there was still 52 voters in the town meeting. So we made it by 2, but maybe a recommendation just to consider potentially maybe reducing the quorum from 50 to say 25 or 30, more for the purposes in the event that after quorum is achieved, if numbers begin to diminish. It's just, again, we've learned since the legislation has passed, procedurally, the board needs to make that decision at least 7 days in advance of the town meeting. And if the board reduces the quorum, and we notify the Attorney General. So again, lessons learned, those are some of the glaring initial ones that we have looked at, and we want to make sure that moving forward, that the town meeting remains safe and successful.
Yeah.
I do think that the town employees did a very good job. Walking in there, you could see how hard everyone worked, okay? And I applaud them because that was a lot of work that got put in. So I just have a couple things. So the idea of reservations, I am absolutely not against the idea, but I am very concerned about the idea. And the reason why I'm concerned about the idea is that we have such a problem trying to get people to know when town meeting is. We see it on social media all the time. We hear people talking, oh, I didn't know. And so now you're going to ask them to kind of say, hey, could you let us know, depending on the situation we're in October, how many is coming. So trying to get that word out is going to be painful. But also, as everyone knows, I can tell you something at 9 a.m. and by the time it gets to him at 3 p.m., it's a totally different story, okay? Human beings are notorious for that. So my concern is you have that one person who decides an hour before town meeting, I'm gonna go, and somebody said, well, did you make a reservation? Well, I didn't know I had to make a reservation. Oh, you gotta make a reservation, so you can't go. And now, because the information was given to that individual wrong, that individual now feels disenfranchised, and we've caused another problem. So I only say this because if we're forced to kind of go into this type of planning, that we try to be as careful as possible is getting this information out. That if you decide an hour before the meeting, show up, okay? Because I don't want to hear any stories of anybody saying, well, they wouldn't let me in because I didn't have a reservation. And all it takes is one. All it takes is one. So I'm very concerned about that. So in reading about, reducing the quorum, so you're saying that we could do it, if needed, 7 days prior to the meeting, just for that particular meeting?
Yes,
Okay, but it wouldn't be like a permanent thing.
correct.
So if we had to, it would just be for the fall town meeting, and then all goes well, spring town meeting, we're back up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do think that one of the things that could help, because I don't sometimes think people realize what they're doing when they leave, is that the moderator just simply do a simple request at the beginning. We respectfully request that everyone please stay for the entire meeting due to quorum issues. I think that sometimes people don't realize what they're doing. And of course they don't, when they leave, there's still a lot left and they don't think 10 more are gonna follow. Because I understand the thought of, someday having to reduce that quorum, but then we end up in the same boat. So that's it. Really, I just kind of wanted to get that across because I was concerned about the whole reservation thing, though I agree with it because I think it is a good idea. I just think it could also end up causing another problem. And again, the town walking into that school that night, there was a lot of work put into that, and it was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I think the reservation idea is good. I think reservation might be the wrong word.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it is. I think that would go a lot into some kind of a misunderstanding as to what we're trying to accomplish. Like, for example, like my understanding, my interpretation is that, for example, if I was going, and I was going to bring my wife and my son who's voting age, I could just kindly say, hey, there's going to be 3 of us attending town meeting. And I don't know how the seating could be laid out, but maybe trying to figure out where we can group, like parties of 3 or 4, or pairs together and still keep that social distance and maybe to maximize seating. But yeah, reservations definitely has like a very strict connotation to it, unfortunately. The only other thing I was thinking is, and I think someone had mentioned this, I think you might have mentioned this, is some of the town employees who aren't town residents, would it be possible to actually seat them up on the stage, like up behind the presentation area, just to maximize the seating in the auditorium itself?
I think perhaps another approach to the reservation system, maybe if there's some high school kids who volunteer as ushers. And so when you show up and you have 4 people, they take you, use these 4 seats. Then that way they can, if people are willing to sit where they're asked to sit, you're able to on the fly, like socially distance, like Carly was doing when people were coming into the open.
Yep.
But if you're doing that right from the beginning, as people are arriving, we may be able to eliminate the need for the
I think that's a good
reservations.
idea, and then we could maybe see if that could meet the criteria for community service.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a good idea. Yeah.
And I think one other thing, and it kind of goes to the length and then getting to falling off in that quorum. And I could be wrong, but my understanding is that the warrant articles do not need to be read twice. It could be, the moderator can say as printed, and then when the motion is made, you're rereading it anyways. And I did hear that from a few people, or at least read from a few people, that having it 2 times did add to quite a bit of the length of it.
Right, but that's up to the moderator.
It is, absolutely, but I think it's a discussion worth having, with a moderator about.
Well, I think the moderator in the beginning was doing that, and then toward the end.
Yeah, well, and Sam being thrown into it was, but in the future, I even noticed at last fall's town meeting, it happens then too, that as the meeting goes on, and usually as budget items are done, attendance starts to fall off.
Well, the other thing is too, and I've been saying this for years, is that whatever's on that warrant, just as whatever's on a ballot, is emotional.
Yeah.
Be it they love it or they hate it. And that's what brings people in. And then once their part is done, they go home.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing, you can't lock the doors and make me stay, but that's part of the problem. Unless there's something on that warrant that makes them want to stay. And sometimes they won't even show up until they figured out, when it's going to be. So that's part of the problem. And as far as a warrant, this one was actually pretty planned.
Yeah.
I think the meeting, other than once we got through like the logistical issues, which took a little bit of time, the meeting really moved along fairly well. I think from my experience with town meetings, it didn't go very late. We finished 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the follow was more. It was warm in the auditorium. Everyone's wearing a mask. You start getting uncomfortable. There's a little bit of anxiety being in a room with that many people for some people. So I think if we can expedite the reading of the warrant, talk to the moderator and just have it read once, I think that would help move things along, and people know that if things are really coming along, people will stick around to the end.
Well, like he pointed out, when, reading the article, which for whoever's watching who doesn't have a warrant, which never lied, I don't understand why it's never lied. It didn't show up. Well, usually the 24 hours, usually 5 days later. But when was it live this year?
Yeah, it's been for, I think, the past 2 years.
First time I've ever heard that it's been live, ever.
The thing with the live though, especially this year, we didn't want to over advertise it because we were worried about getting people there in the first place. But yeah, the feed did go out live.
Oh, this is the first I've ever heard that town meeting was done live. First I've ever
Sorry
heard
to
it.
interrupt, I just.
So that's a good thing. But the problem is that our motions that we have to make are literally practically verbatim
They are.
the article.
Yeah, and that's what I was just
So,
like,
and I've often wondered, does the motion actually have to be the article verbatim?
Right.
Or are we making our motions wrong too? Because you get into this little rhythm too, trying to read this motion, and it's, so I wonder if that's part of a problem
I
too.
know Chris Hellman was infamous for always just starting the motion and throwing in as read by the moderator, like after the second sentence.
Right.
Even if the moderator reads it, the select board then just kind of does that same thing to initiate the motion. It does limit that time.
Mr. Chair, I think where we can shorten it is on the reading of the warrant. I know on the motion legally and like in the records that the town clerk takes, and if there's ever a legal issue, they like the motion to be very specific. Right. But on the other end, there may be ways to also shorten even the motion. And I can discuss with town council as well. But the point about, it's almost like a duplication was brought up by some, but obviously we want to make sure the motions are correct. We can definitely, we can make progress on that front.
Well, just to ask a question, as far as the motion, could the motion literally be that I, make the motion that Article 12 of the June 2020 annual town meeting as read by the moderator be approved? If it was written like that, that may still be legal enough. Legal would have to tell us. But that also, because like I said, some of those motions I'm looking at like verbatim.
Oh, yeah.
Article, verbatim.
they're really long ones.
Yeah, it actually has driven me crazy for years, like literally verbatim the article. So.
And then and I know we'll be discussing this more, and there should be an ongoing, discussion, meaning, town meeting and how to improve it, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic. A couple other things just for the board to consider. So as of right now, the special fall town meeting would be scheduled for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. There are some other, under the emergency legislation, the board does have the authority to vote in advance of town meeting to change the location of a town meeting. And we discussed this in the planning phases about potentially doing something outside, but there were a lot of challenges with that, specifically being weather, because you couldn't put a rain date on the warrant at that time, but also the location. But just something to consider. The town meeting under the emergency legislation can actually be even moved outside of the town. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I think with Monday, October 26th, hopefully things will continue to improve, and we'll be in a situation to be able to have the town meeting, as scheduled.
And I imagine that, as we get closer to all towns finishing, I think MMA is offering like webinars on what works and what doesn't work in other towns too. So we may be able to collect some ideas from that as well.
And I think just the last thing, because we got a lot of these questions before town meeting and afterwards from residents and the public. why can't the town meeting, be virtual or by remote, doing other meetings? As it stands right now, under the state law, as the board is aware, the town meeting, unless you're a representative town meeting, which is a whole other ballgame, which we're not, the town meeting can't be done remotely or virtually. Now, will that change, as there are still towns that have yet to have this annual town meeting that is struggling with various issues? We'll keep everybody updated, but a lot of folks ask, because the technology exists, it would be quite a logistical, but you can't, as of right now, is state law, we have to have the town meeting in person. It can't be remote or virtual. To your point, Mr. Chairman, will that change? We shall see what happens.
And also, Eric, one of my colleagues said, I do appreciate all the hard work that the town employees, and also the residents for being flexible.
Mhm.
That was, like you said, it's a learning experience for us.
Yeah.
Overall, it went very well, given some of the setbacks.
Great. So the memo that is in the packet. It is public. I'm sure we'll be discussing further as there are ideas that members of the board have or members of the public have questions, suggestions, or ideas. Notify the select board office or my office, and we'll continue moving forward. The last item, well, two quick items. The next item was the annual board and committee reappointments, if you will, part 2. There is a memo prepared by the assistant town manager in your packet regarding various reappointments. I just wanted to point out, as I did in my memo, and this doesn't necessarily require a formal vote by the board, but in doing the reappointments, I suggest, it's up to the board, that the board keep Selectman Livingston as the representative to the Devon Jurisdictional Framework Committee, that Selectman Hood is to be the representative for the local committee, which we will discuss getting going. Yes. And thirdly, that select board member Hood has been the board's representative, if you will, for the ongoing discussions on the field.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. When did we create the representative for the Ayer High School field project proposal? Because I cannot remember it.
It's not a formal created appointment. The initial meeting invites were sent out to me at the time because I was chairman of the board.
Okay, so you were just, okay.
Yeah.
But now we're creating this so that
I'm
like
assuming,
next
yeah.
year we could rotate it if somebody else wanted to do it or something, or to that effect.
Yeah, well, the hope is that
Yeah.
it's not around next year.
Right.
Yeah, so for example, like Michelle Granger was the chair of the Ayer Shirley Regional School Committee. She's no longer the chair, but she's still at the field meetings,
Right.
just having had the history
Right.
of what's been going on over the last month or so.
And your purpose to being there is just to be like a liaison to get the information and just bring it back, but not make any decisions or anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll walk through the update coming up next, so I'll walk you through kind of. what
Okay, I just
my
got
role is.
confused because it was like consider keeping, and I'm like, when?
It'll confuse me too. So.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, I was racking my brain, so, okay, thank you.
And then just the last thing in the assistant town manager's memo, you'll see, if there are any folks that are interested, the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, the alternate is generally the town planner, as we proposed, or a member of the planning board, in this case, the town planner. There can be a Board of Selectmen representative. It's 1 year, and you'll see that they meet the first Thursdays of the month at 7 p.m. And right now, due to COVID-19, they're doing it remotely. So not putting anybody on the spot, that maybe there's somebody that select board member that's interested, but that is open. But we're recommending respectfully your approval of the appointments in the memo from the assistant town manager. And it sounds like we're going to continue, which makes good sense with the other positions that I mentioned.
I throw myself out there for that.
I think Jim's just.
I know, I think that was an official nomination.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Selectman Copeland, you'll be the MRPC BOS rep?
Sure.
All right.
Yes,
So I make a motion that the select board approve all the appointments as outlined in the packet and again amended tonight.
I'll second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Now I have to find out what MRPC is.
And then lastly, per the amended agenda, they're looking for approval by the Board of Selectmen of a confirmatory quitclaim deed for 0 Park Street. As some members will recall, back in 2015, the town of Ayer purchased the land adjacent to the fire station, which includes 0 Park Street. And as part of that purchase at the time, which was authorized by town meeting and the board did that, the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through goes through the town land. And at the time, per the town meeting, per the Board of Selectmen, said that there was to be an easement, obviously, so the drive-through could be used. Said easement was never recorded on the original deed, hence the quitclaim deed. And the owners of that property are now in the process of selling it. And so as part of the sale, we want to obviously preserve the easement for the drive-through. So that in a very conceptual nutshell is the quitclaim deed to 0 Park Street, just records that there is an easement for the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. It doesn't impact the town anyhow, but it was an oversight at the time from the sellers. So we're just correcting that. That quitclaim deed was put together by town council attorney Katie Klein with attorney Peter Knox, who's the property owner's attorney. So we're respectfully looking for a board vote of approval to sign quitclaim deed by the board.
Any questions?
Yeah. Sure don't want to stand in the way of the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through.
I was gonna say, that would really
That would be
be
the worst.
a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the confirmatory quitclaim deed for 0 Park Street.
Second, I'm sorry.
No, that's, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes for the quitclaim deed is approved. And, all right, so next up is new business. And we have an update on the field project.
So after the last fields project, what failed in Shirley, we waited a couple months, and Robert and I had reached out to Dr. Moore what the step was going to be, because the fields are in dire need of replacement. They're old, and there are safety hazards, et cetera. So Dr. Malone started these meetings, which we had one about 3 weeks ago, and the second one was today, where it's representatives of the Ayer Select Board, the Shirley FinCom, the Shirley Select Board, the Shirley Regional School Committee, and the town administration, and the design firm. So last meeting, they presented 2 options for a new project, or for basically the same project, just kind of reimagined. And the price tag on those were both approximately $6.5 million. One was artificial turf for the football field. Another one was grass for the football field. One option had baseball remaining on campus. The other option had baseball taken off campus. Their reason for moving baseball off campus was one of the school committee members is adamant that it can be played at Throwing Park, but our Parks Department has said it just doesn't work into our scheduling. So the second meeting this morning, so after the first meeting, we went through the projects with pros and cons of each aspect of it. We looked for areas that we could reduce the cost, because the cost is a big challenge for the town. Shirley, that seems to be Particularly their finance committee chairman is very cost driven, so he has an idea of the project down to. This morning we had the follow-up meeting, and there were 3 options that were presented to us. Costs ranging from $5 million to $5.5 million, so it gets down close to what we feel surely should be amenable to. And then we had discussions just around certain areas that could be either further cut, what the impacts were to some of the items that did come out of the project. It's definitely a more scaled back project. Whereas I think if you think of it as the initial proposal was kind of like the all big bang, this is everything. The second one was, well, we're not going to do this, we're going to do this percent, a higher percentage, and now we're kind of just keep scaling it back. And the primary need for the fields are, it's the new track, the football field, the bleachers need to be, made more ADA compliant, et cetera. And then the baseball and softball fields need updating, and the soccer field needs to be addressed. So we had some good discussions this morning where the price tag had come down a bit, and we adjourned, and we're going to meet again next week for feedback from all parties. So my role is to I feel my role is to, one, inform the board. I'm not there to make decisions, but I'm also trying to fight for the visual concept in which people there have said that they're supportive of when we passed the debt exclusion a few years ago. With what's on the proposal right now, and I was asked not to get into too much detail, I am a little frustrated that it's not really addressing all of the needs of the athletics program, but unfortunately, I think it kind of comes down to this need for just kind of getting it passed. So even if it is stepped through over the next few years to address everything, this could be looked at as more of the first step towards that.
I have a question. So based on what you're saying, obviously the plan is changing. So my first question is, when it is ready to go in front of the towns again, does the town of Ayer and Shirley have to vote for the field project itself again if the plan is changed? Now, we know that when you combine the 2 towns, it was approved, but that was of a different plan than what at this particular conversation isn't.
I can't speak to the strict legality of that, but basically, if you think of, say, the initial project had 10 major items, we're now down to 6 of them. So my understanding from conversations with Robert and I had last year, I believe, before we approached Dr. Malone, was that because those major pieces were in the original project that was approved, it would still fall under the umbrella that the debt exclusion, our approval of the project and the debt exclusion would still be in place.
Because you have an admin fee to it.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cost has only come down.
Right.
And I'll add, before you get to your next question, just quickly, the goal that Dr. Malone has is she's looking to come out of these smaller leadership meetings with a consensus of the group. So she's just looking for avoiding that, resistance within, the town leadership of Ayer Orchard.
Right. So then my next question is because the debt exclusion question that did pass in Ayer was for a specific amount, and basically saying that this would affect your tax rate by this amount. When ready, the town of Ayer would probably have to do a new vote on the debt exclusion, wouldn't they?
Only through the chair, only if the debt, so the voters of Ayer have authorized a debt exclusion to a certain, and I can't think of off the top of my head, but a certain threshold, right?
Okay.
If the project was to go higher, okay,
Then we'd have to vote.
we'd have to re-vote it. If, as Selectman Hood has mentioned, if the project is at the same or below,
Okay.
we're still good.
Okay.
The linchpin is Shirley.
Correct.
Would it be premature to ask what items are being moved, or would that be going into too much detail?
So I was asked by Michelle Granger not to get into too much detail, so I will have to defer that question if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. But, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So did, any new business or anything else? I did want to bring up one item, and that's the possibility, and if you guys want to think about it, we can discuss it at a later time, of the board hosting a community meeting with the chief of police via Zoom meeting, just kind of for some civic engagement. We seem to be living in crazy times, and there's a lot going on in the world. There seems to be a lot of racial issues, a lot of just civic issues that, and I believe the chief is open to this, or maybe open to it. So just want to see if you guys would be.
And this would be an off night.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
not a board meeting.
Okay.
It would be an off
Right,
night.
because then it would just be chaos.
Yeah, no.
So, no, I'm fine.
If you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we can start planning something.
Sure, I will talk with Chief Murray, I know, who is supportive of the idea, and was hoping that the select board would be on board and sort of facilitate on an off night to be on the Zoom platform, a meeting, and we'd set, some parameters, time limit and so forth, but just to have a community discussion, as you mentioned, about just the various issues and move from there. I know a lot of towns, I think Groton is going to be doing, the Groton Select Board is doing one, I think, next month. I think that may be where he sort of got the model.
And I know Littleton as well.
And Littleton,
Their chief did one, or it's on the schedule.
Okay.
All right. The next item is the approval of the meeting minutes.
I'll look them over, I didn't see any issues.
I had no issue.
I'll make a motion that the select board approve the meeting minutes from June 10th, 2020, as presented in the packet.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. And meeting minutes approved.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just noticed someone has their hand up.
Oh.
Sarah, with-
Oh, yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
question.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
You have a question?
yes. When will you come back, Selectman Hood, with the numbers for the school project?
Honestly, next week is our next meeting. We'll get further feedback from the officials in the town of Shirley. I don't know. It's really up to Dr. Maloney and the school committee when the project itself goes public to that level of detail. So I don't have an answer for you right at this moment.
Okay, good enough, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Okay,
Board members.
so this is a tricky motion, that's why.
Where's the packet now?
I make a motion that the select board move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, Section 21 Alpha, exemption number 2, non-union personnel negotiations, Deputy Fire Chief Personnel Service Contract, and exemption number 2, non-union personnel negotiations, the Council on Aging Director Personal Services Contract. To do so in an open session would relay the town's negotiating strategy, and that the select board will adjourn for the evening out of executive session and will not enter back into open session.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And now we're in executive session.
And now we're in the discussion.
And now we say.